This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 446 of the Stable Scoop Show. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible.
Our sponsors this week are HorseLovers.com, Uncle Jimmy's, and Fairfield Inn, North Lexington, Kentucky.
Learn about the rare Marwari horses of India with Dr. Maria Katzmani. Horses in History takes us to Theodore Roosevelt's horse Manitou, and the HorseLover.com product review is the Noble Outfitters Men's Mud Cold Front High Boots. Listen in.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for the Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. The Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
This is Glenn the Geek.
And this is Helena B. And you're listening to the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
Well, howdy, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Stable Scoop Show. I want to thank my wife for filling in last week. I wasn't feeling very well last week. I had a bad Lyme week, so she was able to help out, and I hope you two had fun.
We had fun.
You know, it's Helena never argues when I say, "Oh, Jennifer's going to have to fill in." She's like, "Okay, yeah, that'd be great."
I get so excited when I get to talk to Jen. And you know what? Before we actually started taping, we're like, "Okay, let's talk about this." We were going to talk about plastic jumps and like PVC rails and standards and all that stuff. And we totally didn't even talk about that. We start the tape and we just went. I was like, "How are you? Well, how's Nigel?" And the next thing you know, 25 minutes goes by and we've had a conversation that has nothing to do with plastic jumps.
This is why we don't let you do together very often.
This is, that's true story. But, I did get a chance to go out riding for the first time in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've had
yesterday.
Warm weather up there.
Yes, with my husband. It was
Oh,
very
wow.
warm. It's in like the 50s here. So we decided to take the boys out for a spin around town. And I took Buck on a route that he'd never been before. And he was just giddy because we passed all kinds of interesting sights and sounds and a herd of little miniature donkeys. That was exciting.
Were they terror donkeys? Did they scare the horses?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Birdie, he somehow can contort himself into the letter C and move forward. I mean, there isn't even a dressage name for that. I don't know.
Yeah,
He bends away.
we call them zombie donkeys because they just terrify the horses. I don't know what it is about donkeys, but
Yeah.
it's consistently terrifying to be around a donkey when you're a horse.
I was like, "Okay, Buck, we're going to come up on the donkeys in a minute. So just put your leg on." I said, "We're going to march right through." I said, 2 legs, 2 reins, eyes straight ahead, and just march. And he's like, "La, la, 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 but they're so cute, So I'm like, I'm putting my leg on Brody, and Brody's like, "All right, I'm going. I don't like this, but I'm going." And then I turn around and I look at Buck, and he and Dog are standing there in the middle of the road, and Dog's eyes are wide open, and Buck's like, "Look, he's fascinated by them. He thinks they're so interesting." And I'm thinking to myself, explosion in 3,
Yeah, 2.
2,
Right in the middle
1.
of the road. Which always goes well. That always goes well.
I was
to
like,
be
"Honey, I
naive
love
is such
you.
a
Put your
wonderful
leg on."
thing, right?
What's that?
To be naive is such a wonderful thing.
Ignorance is bliss. Till you hit the ground.
Till you hit the ground. That's right. Well, I'm glad you got to go out and ride. I know there's a lot of people in the northern part of the country that finally had a little break and are getting out to ride before the next big blizzard comes in. So that's good. I got a couple things that we're going to get right to the show here. We have a lot to do today. But I wanted to give our best to Neil, who is our editor of our shows. We started with him from Wild Style Media about, a year ago, Helena? About a year.
Yeah.
And Neil is also the editor of the Messengers movie, which you've heard us talk about, a movie about podcasting that premieres this Friday night in Orlando. And he's been up 24 hours a day working on getting everything done. Making a movie is not as easy as putting out a podcast. So there's a lot to it. He said there was...
And putting out a podcast is not easy.
Get this, 80 gigabytes of footage they filmed.
Wow.
80 gigabytes of footage. So he's out, he's editing everything, trying to put it all together into an hour-long package and get it out there for the world to see. And to do the premiere, we have 600 people coming Friday night for the premiere of this movie. And, they've been working on it all night last night. And then, unfortunately, about 5:30 this morning, it's Tuesday morning, his wife's father died. Naomi's his father-in-law died. He was sick, but this came as a surprise, died of a heart attack. And so he's got that on top of everything else. And we just want to give him and Naomi our best and that let them know that we're thinking about them. Everybody at the Horse Radio Network is thinking about them and wishing them the best. And we're going to do whatever we can to help you this week, buddy. We'll get through it.
We're all behind you, Neil.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that there's an update to the Horse Radio Network app. You'll see it probably pop up on your phone. Be sure you do the update. It has the 3 new shows on it that we have out. The Plaidcast, which is, if you're into hunters and jumpers, is the weekly show for hunters and jumpers put out by the Plaid Horse Magazine. Also, the WEG Show, the 2018 WEG Show. We have 3 episodes now. The last episode was Driving 101, where we talk all about combined driving during the WEG. And we've done eventing, so if you missed those 2, check them out on the app. The 2018 WEG Show with Samantha and I. And it's good to be working with Samantha again. And then the brand new show only has 1 episode out, is called Around the Track. It's put out by the Pollock Report, which is one of the biggest websites for the racing world, thoroughbred racing world. And I can officially say that in 1 week, it's had more downloads than any other show we've ever started. So if you're into racing at all, then check that out. And he interviewed Michael Blowen of Old Friends, the organization that takes in retired thoroughbreds there in...
Yeah, we had him on.
Yeah. Well, he had Michael on, but it was an excellent interview. It's very NPR-ish. It's a little different feel than any of our other shows. And Scott, who is the editor-in-chief of the Pollock Report, did the interview and is the host of that show. And he was an NPR guy for a long time. So it has a completely different feel. It's an excellent show, and he had Michael talking about things we had never heard before. So it's really neat. Take a listen. He's going to kind of get behind the scenes of the racing world. It's not going to be about betting or, what horses are hot now. This is going to be more behind the scenes. So if you like that kind of thing or any of the other shows I mentioned, make sure you do the update on the Horse Radio Network app, iOS and Android.
Love it.
Right after this word from Fairfield Inn in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm getting so excited. It's less than a month that I go for Road to the Horse. We're going to hear from Gail Stewart with our Horses in History segment. Fairfield Inn and Suites North by Marriott Lexington is the ideal hotel for you, as they are the closest hotel to the Kentucky Horse Park. They have the most spacious guest rooms and suites in the area, and they're only 4 miles from downtown Lexington. Fairfield Inn and Suites North offers complimentary breakfast, free Wi-Fi throughout the hotel, free parking, a business center, an indoor swimming pool and jacuzzi, an outdoor patio with grill, laundry facilities, and much more. You get hungry, Cracker Barrel is located right next door, and there are 4 other dining options available within walking distance for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Of course, Lexington is known for the Kentucky Horse Park, University of Kentucky, Keeneland, and the historical Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Enjoy a terrific hotel experience while you're touring Lexington. There's no denying that the Lexington North Fairfield Inn and Suites is the best value in town and will meet all your hospitality needs. Just Google Fairfield Inn North Lexington and make your reservations today. Well, we're back here on the Stable Scoop Show with one of our favorite monthly guests. Her name is Gail Stewart. She wrote The 100 Horses in History, True Stories of Horses Who Shaped Our World. And we're going back in history to take a look at a horse today. Hi, Gail.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Now, what era are we diving into?
Okay, this is a story from the 1880s, and it is about the favorite horse of our 26th president, Theodore Teddy, T.R. Roosevelt. And Teddy, as you all may know, he was raised in a very patrician, wealthy, prestigious New York City family. But as a child, he was asthmatic and had bad eyesight. So the way he countered this was to be very athletic and to follow an aggressive, vigorous, rugged lifestyle. Well, everything was going his way. In 1884, he was 25 years old and was a New York State Assemblyman. He had degrees from Harvard and Columbia Law School, and his wife Alice was expecting their first child. Then on Valentine's Day, tragedy struck, and his wife died of from complications of childbirth, and his mother died of rheumatic fever. The same house, the same day, Valentine's Day, 1884. So as you can imagine, his world was turned upside down. And he decided to go west to try and heal himself. And he went to the Badlands of what today is North Dakota. And he learned he wanted to be a cowboy. He wanted to rope and ride and brand the calves and lead a vigorous lifestyle in a way that he might leave the grief behind him. And so it was there that he met this wonderful horse named Manitou. And Manitou, we don't know much about Manitou. He looked to me from the photos like a quarter horse type, sorrel or bay, and he had a pretty little star on his face and a snip on his nose. And it was Manitou really who provided a balm for his broken heart. He rode this horse. He hunted on him primarily. They hunted pronghorn antelope, deer, elk, bighorn sheep, because TR wanted to feed the cowboys, had to feed the cowboys on his two ranches there in the Badlands. And the horse's name, as I said, is Manitou, which is an Algonquin Indian name for a spirit with supernatural power. We don't really know who named him, but evidently, TR found him there in South Dakota, and there's one wonderful story. He rode this horse everywhere. He loved him. He was his favorite horse, and TR was out there in April of 1885, the year after this tragedy, and he and Manitou were exploring along the Little Missouri River, and they needed to cross the river, and TR was advised to go down the river a ways and cross over on a railroad bridge supported by trestle. Well, that was too much of a circuitous route. He didn't do anything that way. He went straight across. And so he encouraged Manitou to walk across the top of a submerged dam across this roaring, freezing Little Missouri River.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, poor Manitou stumbled, and they both fell head over hooves into this river. Well, it didn't take long. They both popped up, and TR started swimming in front of Manitou and was guiding him across the river and pushing ice chunks out of the way, and they made it safely to the other side. And he had such a good time doing that 2 days later, they did it again. Just for fun. So there must have been an incredible trust between these two. He said about Manitou, he said, "My own hunting horse, Manitou, is the best and most valuable animal on the ranch. He's stoutly built and strong, able to carry a good-sized buck behind his rider at a lope without minding in the least. He's enduring, hardy, sure-footed, willing, spirited, gentle. It's evident he is as nearly perfect as can be the case with hunting horse flesh." And that shows how much he loved that horse. He said, "Manitou is a treasure, and I value him accordingly." So in 1886, TR lost most of his cattle to a bad blizzard and overgrazing, and he went back to New York for good. And so evidently that's where Manitou leaves the story. We didn't hear any more about him taking Manitou back with him. but he loved that horse. And there's a fabulous photograph that Harvard University, and it shows Teddy. He's like probably 26 at the time. He's in a specially made outfit, buckskin outfit that he designed himself, and he's wearing this beautiful wide-brimmed hat. It doesn't look like a cowboy hat as we would think of them today. And he carried a bowie knife, a big silver bowie knife that was fashioned by his friends at Tiffany's there in New York. And
Tiffany bowie knife.
I'm liking this story more and more with every word that comes out of her mouth.
Well,
a real gold watch made of gold.
and an ivory handled pistol is on his hip. And he said, the cowboys looked at him as a New York aristocrat, a dandy, but he wanted to look the part, and by the end of his tenure there, he was respected as a real cowboy, which is what he wanted to do. So and Manitou in this photograph, it looks like the photo was taken right after they'd had a pretty heavy long run. Manitou's head is kind of down, his nostrils are flared, and he's got white foam sweat on his neck, and Teddy's standing there like a cowboy, like Matt Dillon. And
he looks like he's right. I'm looking at the picture in your book. He looks like he's right out of the movie set, an old Warner Brothers movie. It's just like
see him and see the sweat on the horse, and he looks like, wow, I'm kind of tired. He's like,
and you know what, Helena? It looks like he's wearing half chaps, and I didn't know they had half. They called them something else back then, but it's half chaps is what they are.
I don't know. Yeah, it does because
they were custom made.
Tall boots.
Yeah.
I know, and he just everything he did over the top, and so that must have been why Manitou was really so important for him. And then after it was over, he wrote all these books, and he said, in basically describing his grief and how he worked through it, he said, "Black care rarely sits behind a rider whose pace is fast enough," and that's how he dealt with his grief. He went back to New York. He got married again, had 5 more children, and then was elected well, he wasn't elected president. He became the youngest president at 42 when McKinley was assassinated. But then he won after that in the election. He was quite a conservationist. He established 5 national parks, 150 national forests, national monuments, and bird preserves, and he attributed a lot of it to Manitou, his good old hunting horse.
That was a true hunting horse too, one you hunted off of.
Yeah.
I mean, and Roosevelt was 5'8", and I was trying to see how tall that horse was.
He had to be close to 16 hands in this picture.
It's what it looks like.
Yeah, which is pretty good size because you would thought he would have been something quarter horse Mustangy, or had some Mustang influence in there somewhere, Spanish horse, back in 1800. So you would think that would be the case. But there are so many stories about Teddy Roosevelt, and he wrote a lot down, so there was a lot recorded.
Yes.
Yeah. He liked to write.
Yes,
what a trip.
He did. He wrote, I don't know, 50 books or something. But it just goes to show, I mean, how writing can soothe a person's soul. And even Teddy Roosevelt discovered that. And Manitou was just his best buddy, his favorite horse, his best friend.
Well, you can find more of those stories in 100 Horses in History, brought to you by Gail Stewart, and you can find it on Amazon. Do you have a website, Gail?
Yes, www.100horsesinhistory.com.
100horsesinhistory.com. Before you go, Gail, have you read the story about the Irish battling the English for Napoleon's horse?
Are you talking about Marengo?
Yeah. What happened?
Marengo?
Yeah. What happened? Yeah, Marengo. Have you Marengo?
No.
Yes, Marengo. They have his skeleton on display at a museum in England, and that happened after Napoleon lost a battle in the English years ago in the 1700s. Was it?
Oh yes, 1804 was the Battle of Waterloo.
Yes, so 1804, Marengo ends up getting injured, like in 5 places. during this battle.
Uh-huh.
And Napoleon catches a ride on a cart out of the battlefield. So he gets out of the battlefield. His horse is injured in 5 places, gets captured by the British, and then the British keep him. And the horse actually lived to like 30 years old, considering his...
He outlived.
Yeah. He outlived
Napoleon just
Napoleon.
left him there? Like,
Yes.
all right, you're all hurt now, so bye.
The horse got captured
Yes,
is what
he
happened.
outlived.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that story.
Well,
he outlived Napoleon.
Yes. Well, he ended up, his skeleton ended up in terrible shape, but in a museum in England. And then finally a different museum in England in the 1960s, the National Army Museum, took the skeleton and refurbished it and restored it, and it has been on display there. Well, now, right now, there's a big battle because there's a town called, let me see if I get this right, it's the townspeople of Bettavant, County Cork in Ireland, have declared that the bones are theirs because they say that the horse was Irish bred and was born there and sold there at an auction, which is how it ended up in Napoleon's stables, and the rest of the story goes on. So they want the skeleton back. So there's this battle between the English and the Irish about this. And then there's this other Irish town who's now claiming that the skeleton's theirs because they're claiming that the horse was sold at their auction in their town. So there's this war going on for this poor skeleton of Napoleon's horse. You got to look it up and read it. It would be great for your next book.
Oh, that is wonderful. Isn't it funny? All the horses who have been preserved. I visited Winchester at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, and there he is. He was the horse that Sheridan rode down from Winchester to the Battle of Cedar Creek, and he's around the corner from Julia Child's kitchen, but his whole body is there.
Why do I think that's funny?
I don't know that we want to put those two things together.
No, you're probably right. But it is funny how much we love these horses, and they are preserved in many cases. Some of them.
Yep. Well, I think by the time this is done, there'll be other people in the battle for Napoleon's horse. So there we go.
Glenn, thank you for the tip. I'm going to research that and update my story.
Yeah, definitely look it up because it was an interesting story. It really was. All right, thanks, Gail.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and you all have a happy day.
Hello, folks. Uncle Jimmy here, and welcome to the world of Uncle Jimmy brand products, where funny names mean serious products. Featuring Uncle Jimmy Squeezy Buns, the squeezably soft hand treat that your horse will love. The award-winning Uncle Jimmy's Hangin' Balls. Uncle Jimmy's Sugar-Free Ball. The incredible Licky Thing, also in sugar-free. The amazing Uncle Jimmy's Pecker Wrecker, and the Big Licky. The infamous Uncle Jimmy Hangin' Ball was first designed by me for my own horses to help reduce the bad habits which come from stall boredom. It now can be found around the world. This nutritious, flavored, filled boredom buster will help keep your horses occupied and happy around the clock. Properly hung, it will last for weeks, provided you don't let your horse pin it, and Uncle Jimmy knows who you are. The ball comes in 4 flavors: apple, carrot, peppermint, molasses, and now sugar-free. Once again, welcome to the world of Uncle Jimmy's brand products, where funny names mean serious products, and satisfaction is 100% guaranteed.
Well, we're going to welcome Dr. Maria Katsamani, and she's going to talk to us today about a really cool, very rare horse breed. And I'm going to try to say the name. I was all confident about it, but now I'm getting a little concerned. They're the Marwari horses. Did I say that right?
That is excellent, Anna. That's great. That was perfect.
This is a beautiful breed. I know absolutely nothing about it, but apparently it has a fascinating and rich history. So welcome to the show, and tell us about these horses.
First off, thank you so much for having me, and it's always a pleasure and a delight for me to talk about them. So the Marwari, I'm very privileged to own one, or I suppose he owns me. For anyone, by the way, I have to say, that's interested in knowing more about it, if if they're really, really, it's a fascinating breed. There's so much information out there. I always try to direct people to resources that are viable and reliable. The Indigenous Horse Society of India, if you do a Google search, they have a website, Indigenous Horse Society of India. Francesca Kelly and her partner Bonnie in India have probably the more reputable, I believe, historical and accounts of where the breed is going and their history. I think that where we have found. But the breed itself is one of the rarest horses in the world. And I have some photos on my Facebook page, and you see the little ears. They're known actually in the horse community in a cute way because of their ears, because when the ears come together, they form the shape of a heart. And when they go back, they look like a Celtic harp. So they are known as the heart-shaped eared horses of India. They are... Their history is interesting because they were the war horses of the Maharaja, and for centuries, the only ones that really were able to ride them were Indian nobility warriors, and so the history is very, very rich. Currently, they are designated as the rarest horse in the world, along, I believe, with the Akateki. Yeah. So the fact that we don't see them is there's only about just under 30 outside of India, and there's a ban of export, and that's why they're not as popular. They're not very well known, but because really the Indian government has banned the export of the horses. And Francesca Kelly and Bonnie and the Indigenous Horse Society of India is really working very hard to educate people about the breed and promote the breed and ensure their safety and viability for lifetimes to come.
It's not a very tall breed. It looks like they average between 14.2 and 15.2 hands, but they have a very stately presence. How would you describe their body type? I mean, we've got our sort of stocky quarter horse types here in America, and then we've got the long and lean thoroughbreds. How would you describe the typical conformation of the Marwari?
Yeah, the Marwaris, they are, first of all, a very, very noble animal. If you spend time with them, I have about right now 7 of them on my property here, and own one of them, a Marwari stallion. All of them have a very, very, very noble creatures. They're as dainty as they are very hardy. They have incredible endurance. They're built a little bit, I would say, because of the neck set, and a little bit like, I would say maybe an American saddlebred, smaller version of it. There's such variety too within the breed. If you go to India, you see even bigger and stockier Marwari than maybe the herd that we have here. So there is a lot of variation, I have to say, in the conformation. Because those also Marwaris there's some mixing of Kashtwari blood. There's a smaller breed of that area and so forth. So you see a lot of variation in terms of even the height. I mean, I've seen Marwaris that are about 16 hands and really, really broad, almost look like a Lusitano or one of the Louisians with heart-shaped ears. But generally speaking, these are animals that have not been necessarily bred for purpose. In other words, if you think of your general breed like a quarter horse or your thoroughbred, they've been bred for a task, either to race or to have a certain function, or draft horses or bred for a function. Warm bloods are bred for a function, sport horses. These guys were not, and there's something a little wild about them. I mean, I think Wikipedia describes them as unpredictable and tenacious, and I would say that there's something about them that's very stately, noble, and extremely elegant. And you have to be a very tactful individual to be able to have the rapport with them that gives them their legendary. They're known for legendary loyalty. I don't think I've ever heard horsemanship put quite so beautifully. You have to have the tact to basically engage with this animal to bring out the best in them. That's right.
I really think that's probably life advice that I want to let that sink in for a little bit for myself and for our listeners, is that so many times we get on the backs of these horses and we forget that it's our job to treat them with a certain amount of respect and care, and they will give us the very best that they have. And for a breed like this one, where it's absolutely essential, because sometimes for some horses, and I think a lot of really seasoned, like when you started talking about the horse's personality and being a little bit wild, I got excited. And there are people, I think there's some very seasoned horsemen and women who like that, understand the wild side, the thinking side of a horse like this. A lot of Arabians are like this as well. And you do have to exercise a lot of tact, because you have to have a conversation with this animal. And when you meet them at that level, it's hard. It's when you can appreciate the fact that there's an intellect in there. Now, it might be an equine intellect, but it's an intellect nonetheless. And when you can meet them at that level and engage with them that way, I do think that you can bring out the very best in them. So I just love that you just put it that way.
Thank you for saying that, Elena, because it's not just, with one of the things I promote or try to promote worldwide is that coming to the horse with that kind of a mindset and all that it involves, it entails, and the richness of the relationship you can have when you decide not to push and pull on an animal. But I'll tell you, the breed itself, they're sensitive, but they're very sensible. There's something very sensible about them. I can speak about it in words. You have to come and see it. And I always invite the public to come and see it, because you can have a horse that seems kind of in a panic and a loss. And I walk in, I say, Baba, stop. Hey, stop. Right away they stop. Like, if they know you're their human, they trust your guidance, and they believe in you. And I think for me, when I started working with them, I've always been a sensitive person, but I'll tell you, it opened up another world for me, because you can put one rider on that horse and it's a disaster. Another person, it will look beautiful. And I developed just such a deep appreciation for the, and not just me as a trainer trying to teach them something, but just the dialogue and how simple it can be. I could just, I remember teaching the jambette to my stallion, and I never had to use, for example, the idea for us of the animal as a stimulus response creature. If you think of Pavlov's dog, good boy treat. They're way above that, way beyond. There's an energetic language that when we start to believe in that, these horses in particular, I found in having worked with them, respond tremendously well to that, and there's a dignity that's preserved in that, and they have such appreciation for you and respect for you that they'll walk through fire. And it has nothing to do with desensitizing them, or it's just that they feel together with you, and for you they give their heart, and they're known for that. That's in the Indian folklore. They're known for their heart and loyalty to that particular person. They're very bonded in that way, and I think.
Well, that's what made them good war horses, right? Right? I mean, Maria,
yes.
I mean, that's the description right there of a war horse. And I was reading too, and I thought this was interesting that because obviously the Mongolians in history had an influence over that whole part of the world because they basically conquered it all at one point. But they have a lot of the same traits as some of the Mongolian breeds, and that makes sense, especially saying that a lot of the Mongolian breeds were probably brought to India at some point or another in the past. They're all related at when you go way back. Why the ears, though? Is there a reason that they have the pointy inny ears?
That's such a great question. I read so many things that I can't say definitively, but I've heard things ranging from. But before I answer that question, I have to say that within 2 crossbreedings, the ears are lost.
Oh wow!
So if you take a Marwari, and you breed them and you cross them again, they will lose the ears. So there's something very particular to that breed about the ears. I have to say that the one theory I've heard is that because they've they're from the Marwar region of India. I mean, if you think of India, the western province of Rajasthan is really between India and Pakistan. You see a lot of desert, open desert. And one of the theories I had heard was with the winds blowing this way, you needed a horse that can move its ears where the sand won't blow in it. And in that particular way. Yeah, because of the mountain ranges and the desert. So that's one theory. But I do have to say that the way their ears rotate, they're extremely sensitive to noise and sound. They're kind of particularly known for that. They hear things. It's kind of a strange, and to watch their little ears move is fascinating. I'm just right now just thinking of one of my horses and they all seem to have that sensitivity. So that's one theory I've heard, has the desert sand. And it's interesting too. I'm of Greek heritage, but I in reading the stories of Alexander the Great, who actually pushed into India, put near Pakistan with his horse Bucephalos, the famous story of the great love between Bucephalos and Alexander the Great. And they say that he lost because of the agility of the horses on the other side. That they used to put the nemesis would put trunks on the horses and disarm the Greek horses, which would see an animal that they were not familiar with, and the older depictions say it's a horse with funny ears, crossed ears or hard ears. So that whole region where the Marwari originated from, there's a lot of right now research on that, looking at the genetic. I mean, is the Mongolian ponies and combination Akhlatekis, and you have other indigenous breeds. Certainly, there was a period in Indian history where to have a Marwari was seen as not a good thing, and they were crossbreeding them with the British thoroughbreds. So that kind of endangered the breed, and so there have been great efforts to revive the original Marwari bloodlines, and so the breed has gone through quite a bit because of the wars and the cultural changes and such. So, and they've endured. Well,
we're going to post a picture. I took a picture off your website of you with your stallion, and that's a perfect example of the ears too. And he's a handsy boy. So we're going to put that in our show notes, and I encourage people to go to it's horseindian.com. Actually, is the website that you were talking about earlier. Horseindian.com. I looked that up, so you can take a look at more about the Marwari. Now, let's talk a little bit before we go, and we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I want to talk about the Pegasus Foundation, right? Tell us a little about it.
So I started a nonprofit about a year and a half ago, and also because of my connection to the Marwari horses and having interfaced in the last 10 years with people from around the world because of my work, and seeing also the condition of the horses, not just here in the United States, but around the world, and sometimes the lack of education around the responsibilities that we have towards the horse. And it goes anything from just hoof management, things that we may take for granted here in this country. People, just because of lack of ignorance, may not understand that there are ways of improvements that we've made in medicine, in hoof care, and in a way, the responsibilities we have towards the horse when we ride them. So I started a nonprofit with the intention of educating and providing, educational materials for the equestrian community, but by taking one horse at a time, that we take and adopt, and we, through a multidisciplinary team that involves great farrier vets and so forth, being able to take that horse from zero to adoptable and safe. And just being able to highlight the responsibilities we have, not to overbreed, the responsibilities we have when we have a horse, to be able to manage their development. And so what we do is we take these animals, we rehabilitate them, retrain them, and then promote certain ways of training and certain ways of engaging with horses that we think should be continued. Should have that information for the general public. And so we started that with a lot of support, and have right now a horse that we're trying to find a home for, and all with the intent of showing that, the adoption process has to be, it's just not taking an animal, plucking it out, and then that horse will get recycled back into an auction if the right management is not taken. So an appreciation for what does it take to keep that animal safe, comfortable, physically and mentally well.
What's the website for that?
Oh, the website is www. And it's then one word, thepegasusfoundation.org.
Okay. And I wanted to clarify that because there's a lot of Pegasus foundations, and the first one I went to had a fox on it, and I knew that wasn't yours. So I wanted to go. It also looks like it's saving animals, but not horses. Okay.
And that's based in New Jersey.
Yeah, thepegasusfoundation.org. And you said you have one that needs a home right now. Is that on the website?
I don't know if I posted her. It's on our Facebook, but she's a Selle Français. She's a French horse, a mare, and she's looking for a home. And we've been able to, anybody that's interested in her, she's just a fantastic creature looking for her human.
Wow. A Selle Français shouldn't have trouble finding a human, that's for sure. Well, this is great. Thank you so much for joining us today and enlightening us a little bit on doing our breed highlight for us today. And you can be found, all of your different work can be found at your website, right?
That's right.
And that's Maria. Okay. See, Helena's better at the names than I am. Go ahead, Helena.
What do you want me to do? Repeat her last name?
Maria Katzmani.
Well,
Am I close?
Yes, but we don't pronounce
Katzmani.
Katzmani.
Yes. That's right.
Okay.
It's the most difficult part of the job, is having people pronounce my name.
We'll post a link to it in our show notes, and we'll also put it on our Facebook page. Thank you, Dr. Maria. How about that? Dr. Maria, that's easy. I can do that.
That's easy. Glenn always goes for
I always go for the first names. It's much better. We appreciate you being on. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Well, it is that time of the week when we do our product review, brought to you by horselovers.com. And we have one of our terrific auditors here, as usual, who's had an opportunity to review this product. It was the Noble Outfitters Cold Front High Boots. Hi, Scary.
How you guys doing?
Good. Scary has been with us before. You've been on before, right?
Well, only once by accident because I won the book during the radiothon.
Oh, that's right. Okay, good. Well, that Scary goes by Scary. We found out. We won't tell anybody what his real name is, but we managed.
Stories have started out
Yes.
with once by accident.
Once by accident. That's true.
It's Scary with 2 R's, so you got to remember that.
Okay, Scary with 2 R's.
Don't confuse me with the other Scaries out there.
And Scary, you've been a listener forever, right? I mean, long time.
Yeah, I was trying to think back, and way back when Hit 'em was still in the Bad Sound days.
Thanks for reminding me.
Well, it's kind of
Helene and I have never had bad sound days on this show.
No, that's true. That's true. You guys have always had good sound, but it's kind of like, well, let's see, how long has it been? He goes, well, it was back when the sound used to sound like an AM radio.
All right, Scary, we're going to review a product, Noble Outfitters Cold Front Boots. Tell us about them.
Well, for beginners, and I've never got this before with a pair of, I guess we call them rubber boots or knee boots. Every person that looked at them goes, those are nice boots.
Oh, wow.
I'm just like, okay, nice
People
boots.
are noticing your feet, Scary.
What's that?
You walk in a room and all the ladies look at your toes.
Well, the first thing I do, I walk in and I show my mom, and goes, you look good in those. I'm like, what the heck did that come from? I'm going to become a boot model. That's what I'm going to do.
Noble Outfitters will be happy to hear that.
Yeah, there you go. Well, at some point, I'm going to get you a picture.
Let me let you guys in on a little secret.
Yeah.
Okay? All women check out men's shoes.
Really?
We do. It tells us a
Really?
lot. Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, we
Oh my
check out your
gosh.
shoes.
What's a guy with frumpy
right now I-
sneakers say?
What?
What when you see a guy with frumpy sneakers? Then what do you think?
Frumpy?
That's,
Yeah, frumpy. That'd be me.
that's for another podcast network. No, you think, no thanks, I'll pass.
So that's the story of my life right there, Scary. No thanks, I'll pass.
Well, that's like,
Well, see-
like a pair of mom jeans, you don't, you just, with the honestly, the way people, it's like turnout, okay? You go into the show ring and you need to be properly turned out, and the better turned out you are, the better chances you are of getting the prize. So, a nice pair of boots, it doesn't have to be fancy. Like if Scary walked into a party wearing these boots, and I'd be like, who's that dude? Nice boots. He must have something interesting to say.
Oh, now I got to start down there with my party boots.
Yeah, there you go,
Yeah.
Scary. Your
You
party
think I'm
boots.
joking?
Your rubber party boots.
Well, I will. Now I'm thinking about whenever I've got my field boots on, my tall boots. Like everybody's like, "Wow." Well, since I'm the only guy there, I mean, my whole barn, I'm one guy. And it's like everybody comments on the boots, and I go, "Well, I just figured because it took half a cow to make each one."
So, all right, these boots are made of neoprene. Obviously, they're rubber boots, 100% waterproof. Yeah. Did you find them to be 100% waterproof?
They are 100% waterproof. I was standing to the top of them just yesterday in 52-degree water.
Okay, and now the problem with some of these rubber boots, and we've all had them, is that they just don't fit quite right. They never because, with leather boots and even with sneakers and stuff, they kind of meld to your foot and they kind of become your foot shape after a while and they fit comfy. What did you find with these?
Well, when I first got them, let's remember back here. When I first got them, they were small. And I called Noble and I go, guys, these things feel like 12s. They don't feel like 13s. And the person I got a hold of said, yes, that batch we had problems with, and they are, I think they said they were narrow. They felt like they were small in all directions, but it was the 13s because I've got that giant foot. All the other ones don't have this problem from what I understand. Okay. So it made it kind of difficult in that area. But then again, when it starts getting really cold out, which is what these boots are made for, by the way, you don't want to wear these on a warm day. You'll just cook yourself. They fit a lot better when it's cold.
Oh, wow.
Well, I don't know. Maybe my foot swings weak as that cold. I don't know. But the other thing is the leg of this boot. It's really neat because usually your rubber boots or boots like this have got real floppy tops to them. When you walk, you hear it flop, 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 and it's the top of the boot hitting your leg. And these things are a very tight fit. I don't want to say the word tight, but I can't think of a better word right now. I mean, they really contour to your leg.
They're fitted.
They're fitted, yeah.
Yes,
fitted,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're lucky if you can get 2 fingers between. Actually, it stops about that. 2 fingers between the boot and your leg.
See, now I would
about
like
the most,
that because if it's
well,
when you do have man-made materials, like you said, it doesn't always conform to your feet, and if you don't get a perfect fit, the least you could do is ask for a snug fit.
Yeah, and I at first I'm thinking, and then I started getting used to them. And what's neat is like when you're picking feet or something, if you're wearing rubber boots with a big open top, guess where everything you just picked out of the foot goes?
Every single time.
I know. It's just like flop, flop. And every time I'm wearing these boots, I'm doing it. It's like, ha ha! I beat you again.
All right, so these have the reinforced toe, and are they the tread? Do they are they made for mud? Do they have the mud tread, or are they fairly smooth on the bottom?
They've got a really good lug to them, a really good tread, and they're thick, like your other neoprene boots out there. I mean, they've usually got a good tread, but these things you feel like you're a half an inch taller in them than other boots.
Okay, cool, very good. And
So
would you
there's
recommend
a real solid
them?
foot to them? Yes, but with these things are really, really warm. And if you are not in, or at least for me, if you're not in cold weather, you need lesser of a boot. These things just get hot. In fact, this weekend I was standing in 52-degree water up as high as I could, and my feet were still barbecuing in them.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's good to know.
Well, the neoprene, man, that's the stuff that ice fishermen wear when they stick their hands in the ice, right? Like neoprene is some serious heat just does not escape. And so you'd have to wear cotton socks, I would imagine, if your feet are going to warm up to the point where they might get a little sweaty. You probably need to put something that's
I know who
absorbent
needs
on.
these. We had a guest on this morning on the Horses in the Morning show who's from Washington State, and she's had so much snow that the snow is over the 5-foot fences.
Wow.
And so there you go. She could use these boots right now.
Well, they're billed as cold front boots. So the idea is it just so happens, I don't know where you are, Scary, but I'm in the Northeast and we've had one of the warmest winters on record. So I'm
that's due to change any minute now. You still have March to go yet.
Yeah.
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and we've been in the 70s for the past 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well,
it's just been a really weak winter. It gets super cold here. It just hasn't this year.
Well,
the time I really put the boots to the test is when I was out at the barn working, and you know how when you get your paddock boots on, there's only nothing between your foot and the floor, and that cold concrete just kind of starts eating away at the bottom of your feet. And I finally got to the point where I couldn't feel my feet, and I go, hey, I've got a great pair of boots that would solve this problem. So I go out to the Jeep and grab the Noble Outfitters and put them on, and it's just like, I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to get any colder in these, but then I start warming up in these.
Yeah.
Well.
So they are, and in the back of my head the whole time I'm thinking, I go, these things would be great with a dry suit, or if you're a crab fisherman, like Deadliest Catch or something like that.
Yeah. Are they narrow enough to fit into a stirrup, or are these primarily a barn
that's a good
boot?
question.
I think you can ride. I didn't try riding in them because I don't know. When I ride, I like to be in a pair of paddock boots. I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to try these one time, but then I never did. I think, yes, they're narrower than most rubber boots.
You can make it work if you wanted to.
Yeah, I definitely think so. The only thing is, like I said, these things got a little bit thicker tread, so they're a little taller. So one, you might lengthen your stirrups or something. But I think you could ride in these.
All right, very good. You can find them at horselovers.com. It's the Noble Outfitters Men's Muds Cold Front High Boot. They have them on sale right now as of Tuesday when we're recording this for $99.95, so the right price as well. Thank you, Scary, for joining us and for helping us review these boots.
Well, thanks for, being there, guys.
Well, I want to mention while you're on here, if you are not an auditor yet, like Scary, then
I am.
You are. But
I'm sorry.
I'm talking to the
He's
people
part of
out
the
there. If they're not auditors yet, they should consider it because Horse Lovers has just started compiling the next list of products for review over the next year, and you're going to want to have the opportunity to get free products to review it, just like Scary got $100 pair of boots for free. So that's how you can do it. You become an auditor. We post it in there, and then people hop on and get products to review. So that's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So if you've thought about being an auditor for as little as $1 a month, you can do it right now. Head over to stablescoop.com, click on the auditor banner, and you too can become an auditor. And one, you get to be in the very cool auditor room, and two, you get to have input into the shows because we're always posting in there for questions or feedback or things like that. And then three, you get to try out the products. So there's a lot of benefits to becoming an auditor. And I think you'd back that up, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. It's like the happy place. The auditor, once you get in there, you don't want to leave.
It is a happy place. That is true. All right.
It really is.
Except for guys named Scary, who we're just not quite sure about. But we allow them in anyway.
Yeah.
Hey,
and then my lovely rants I get in there.
Everybody needs
there you go.
Thanks, Scary.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Well, Helena, we're going to miss you this year at PodFest. You were down last year for it. It was so much fun to hang out with you and the clan.
Yes, I am certainly going to miss all of the wonderful people who put on PodFest.
Chris Kermitsos, another Greek, by the way, has been working I can say his name, though, has been working nonstop on this. And this year, we had about, 120 or 30 last year, maybe, at PodFest. This year, he has tickets sold for 400.
Lovely.
So podcasting is just taking off. There are more and more people. I know we've had, in the last week, I've had 5 people ask me about new shows for the Horse Radio Network. So I think that, it's just turned the corner. I know you've seen it. There's a very good episode, by the way. I hope you catch it. For School of Podcasting, my buddy Dave Jackson did one this week on local podcasts. I hope you get a chance to listen to that because it directly applies to your show. And there's a whole section, there's a whole panel this time for the first time I've ever seen at a podcasting conference on local podcasting, because I think local is becoming very popular. And of course, you have one.
Yes, I have a local podcast that focuses on Newport, Rhode Island, America's favorite, and I think most romantic city by the sea.
I agree, because we had our honeymoon there. So that makes it so. The king says so. So you can find that at thatnewportshow.com is where you go to take a listen to that. And that's about it for today. All of our past episodes can be found at stablescoop.com. And we want to thank our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't have a network. And we have horselovers.com. Our friend Uncle Jimmy, who's been with us since I think the very beginning, and Fairfield North in Lexington, Kentucky. That's it, Helena. You can say goodbye now. You're always confused. You can say it now.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody. There will be more next week when we're back with another episode of Stable Scoop. Until then, happy scooping.